Okay, so we're out in the American barn, and this is what I grabbed off Ross many months ago. It's a Kenwood TS780. Now, you don't see a lot of 780s, to be honest. You see, obviously, a lot of the 790s and various other ones. 790A was, quite popular. And, excuse me, this was a very interesting one, because Ross said to me, he said, there won't be much wrong with this, and we had a no display. And one of the oscillators wasn't running as well, which I sort of thought, all right, well, it's being a bit of a pain. It was up around 148.600, just as no matter where you went on the VFO, etc. So, it kind of gave you a guess that one of the oscillators is not contributing too well. We found a couple of points. There was one little dry joint on one of the oscillators, which was reasonably easy to fix. We just pulled out this this board on your right-hand side here that has now got its metal tin can over. But one trick for new players that is really whether you've got a 780 or you've got anything, I don't care if it's a 430, 440, 950. But I just want to show you something, and this is pretty much what you've got. You get that when you're sitting there, and what I would suggest, any time that you're having a look at a radio, go around and actually just unplug and plug a few things in. In this case, the display fault wasn't actually VCO related at all. It was actually connector based, and it was that connector there was causing some trouble. Now we've cleaned it and shined it and done lots of things, and all of a sudden, we've got this thing now on the monitor transmitting nicely. And if we take it off generate, and we should be able to go 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. I'll turn that up a bit. 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 1 2, and that's operating quite nicely. When we inject a signal into it, we should see the same, where we can actually see the signal coming in. Now I'm not putting a lot in there. There's 0.5. I'll just turn that volume down. Sorry, and we'll turn the radio up so you can actually hear the radio and break the squelch of that. So that's the radio at the moment that's receiving that 0.5 of a microvolt signal, and there goes 0.2, 0.05, it loses it. And obviously as we start to put sorry, I moved the camera then, as we start to look at, that's the attenuated scale of pretty much 0.5 through to 5 microvolts. So 5 microvolts is sitting there around about 50 dB over, and that's working quite well. So let me just turn that terrible noise off and put the squelch back on. So when you go looking at these types of radios, and a lot of these older radios, they don't actually require technicians. They just need people that can unplug things and plug them back in sometimes. I mean, the oscillator fault was a little more annoying. I had a capacitor was causing some trouble there. But even that sort of fault, when we were in trade school, we were made to build this little fella here. And all it is just a little RF sniffer. The little probe there has got me out of trouble quite a few times. Looks pretty basic, but that little RF sniffer can get you out of trouble a lot of the time. So once you've got all the oscillators running on something like this, really there can't be much more wrong with the display apart from something in the display driver area, and you're able to narrow down very, very fast what it is that is going on with the radio. Look, these are very, very nice. They're, I look at that transmit power there. We've got about 30 watts of transmit power, which is not bad. Just having a look at just what low's about 5 watts. Yep, okay. And of course these were not just a 2 meter set. They were 144 and 70 SEMS on 430 megs. So, and the at the moment I've got to program a couple of things into it, but excuse me, nasty throat today. But for the surface, on the surface, we've got most of the things cooperating now with us. There's a memory system which they actually another one to watch out for. Always check the voltage on this little fella here and these fellas in here. Make sure that most often the 3 AA's that are situated in this fella here, they've gone and poured out everywhere, and you're putting a new battery pack in it. But this came from Ross, and it had a new battery pack holder in there. And I thought, yep, So Ross obviously had this going for quite a while, and it's just developed a couple of little strange things while it's been sitting on the shelf. That happens all the time. I mean, you know, we've just got shelves and shelves of radios where, you know, they're really a lucky dip. Until we fire them up, you just really don't know what you're going to get. But yeah, look, there's probably the thing I'd like to say is this actually model, the TS780, only Ross would have one of these. You know, sort of. I don't think I've seen one in Australia ever. I don't believe they were released here. You know, as we put some covers back on the fella, they come together quite nicely and they look rather nice. And you don't jam a cable out the side. That's better. We'll put some screws back in it, and that's going to be a really, really nice radio. And I'll take the dust off it. I feel bad about that. That's just terrible. Out in the shed here, we call it the American barn all the time. You always hear that. Right, there we go. There we go. We'll just give that a bit of a clean while we do the video. Nothing unprofessional about that. Beautiful. You'd never know. But these are just one of the types of radios that you'd never sell. They're really very difficult to sort of find around the place. I've, as I said, only ever seen one, and it would be this one. That doesn't mean that, you know, in people's shacks all around the place there's not a few. It probably is, but you know, there's a lot of astute collectors around Australia. But one thing I wasn't sure is whether this knob came standard. This really screams of a KB1. It's not a spinner like the KB1, but it's very, very similar to what we used to put on the 530s and things like that. And but the colour is definitely the same as the outer trim across the top here, so they've really blended that. So I'd actually think that's probably a standard fixture on it, but very difficult to get details on the TS780. There's not a heck of a lot available. All right, well, that's great. We've got a good result out of this, and we'll program some memories in, and it'll go on the repeaters, and I think we'll be laughing. But anyway, just a little heads up on, you know, what you should be thinking when you pull those covers off. Always check the simple things first, because, you know, 9 times out of 10 it is. Had I have not gone searching for the oscillator first, I would have had the display fixed in seconds, but I went for the hard fault first. Now, the truth is that worked in this occasion, but I'll tell you what, I'd be a lot more impressed if I had done it the other way around, check the connections, because let's face it, it could have been one of those cables that was causing the oscillator not to work too. So, you know, by spraying all those connectors, putting them all back in, you know, we had a really good result in respect to the display. But yes, we did have to get a board out and chuck a new cap in that had just ceased to make the oscillator work. 73s from VK3 Charlie Mike, thanks very much, and hope you enjoy the TS780 as much as I have. Cheers.